Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in general, and we looked at a few of the songs in particular, the songs that I thought were most humorous, most effective, most entertaining both to the cast members and to the audience. Now we're going to just start at the beginning of the show and look at some of the original songs of Lloyd Webber, and I'm afraid we'll get into some aspects that I see as simplicity that is more a case of the lack of imagination and creativity than it is simply creating something that works well with kids. The prologue, for instance. This is the very opening of the show, sung by the narrator. The melody is very tied to the opening, or to the home key D major, and it is extremely repetitious, very slight changes just for the syllables of the lines. Now I'm playing block chords just to show the chords, the harmony, and that was all one chord, the same little phrase 2 times. Then we get slightly different phrase with different chords. But again, it's an exact repetition. Now we get a complete repetition of everything we heard so far. Another way to put it is that we have heard 16 bars with actually 4 bars of material. Now we go to and it's a change of pace. All of this is really quite singable. So in terms of how this fits the voice and how easy it is to sing, Lloyd Webber's songs usually are friendly to the voice, but maybe I have a jaded view because I come at them as an accompanist, as a pianist. Well, that's the opening song. We're going to see some of the same things in some of the other shows as we just simply flip through the first act. Here's Jacob and Sons, the first production number with a large cast. Exact repetition coming up. Okay, and the chords here were 1, 4, and 7. 7 is the flat 7, the subtonic, which is common with early rock music, and he does use that in a number of songs here. The same 3 chords in the next section, while the melody at least goes higher. Exact repetition now. All right, that was 16 bars. We're going to get exactly the same 16 bars again with different words and different rhythms. Anyway, you get the idea. Finally, he repeats that last phrase. As a lead into the next song, which is about Joseph's coat. And that song fairly simple harmonies again. A little bit more than we had. We even got to get some dominant chords here. But again, very repetitious, and in so many of these songs, the scheme of them, the form is the same. A phrase, exact repetition, a similar phrase, exact repetition, repeat of the whole thing, and then a second section, which is might be a contrast, or we might get repeat of the original. Here is Joseph's Dream. There's the first part. Those are shorter phrases. And now we have 4-bar phrases, but the same structure. The same thing, almost exactly 4 times in a row. It is exact 3 times. The fourth is a little different. That's 2. Here's 3. Here's 4. Well, that at least comes down to the tonic. There's an odd thing about the harmony in this. This is 1, 4, and 7, and it sounds like this with an odd dissonance at one point. It is true that that first one is on the word annoyed. Joseph's coat annoyed his brothers. Maybe there's a message that Lloyd Webber is trying to give us, but he has the same dissonance coming again and again. So much more repetition, a structure based on exact repetition and not much variance or contrast. When he goes to minor here, in the second half of this, the brothers, the dreams of our dear brother, the decade's biggest yawn. It has a catchy rhythm, but it certainly is stuck to the few notes of the tonic G minor triad. The next phrase does get beyond that, but he certainly sticks to that with his opening statements in most of these melodies. Well, that is true of so many of these songs. The structure being based on exact repetition. If you go to his most famous show, the Phantom of the Opera, you find that nearly all those songs have the same structure, an exact repetition. In a music theory, or especially in a form and analysis class, the first type of structure that one studies is called the period. It's the simplest thing that we can call structure because it has 2 parts. And each part is one phrase. The first phrase sounds like it hasn't closed, that it hasn't ended on a home note. The second phrase brings us back home. And it's fairly easy to just improvise. I'll play one. There, the first phrase was. That doesn't sound like it's ended. In fact, harmonically, it sort of suggests what we call a half cadence. And that suggests an authentic cadence. That is a very simple period structure. The second phrase does not need to be similar. There was a totally different second phrase that still came back home. So that structure is the basis of musical form, and you could find it in classical music, you could find it in lots of artistic songs and popular songs, and it seems to be a structure that Lloyd Webber has avoided. Now it does occur in a couple songs here, but most of the songs, and in his later shows, he does not use it. And so it seems to me that he is, either deliberately or not, confining himself to less variety and less creativity. Well, that is our look at the structure of the music in this show. In the next part, we're going to play around a bit, do some what ifs. What if certain songwriters had written songs from somebody else's show? So, stay tuned.